Welcome to episode 119 of Nobody Special.
In this episode, we talk about Outer Banks and forgiveness.
The Gospel Outpost presents Nobody Special. Hey everyone, welcome to Nobody Special, two nobodies talking about the somebody who matters. I'm Danny, the host and pogue of Nobody Special.
And I'm Caleb, you're the host of Nobody Special. This is a podcast where two generations of people talk about God, pop culture, politics, and everything in between, all while not taking any of it too seriously.
Hi Caleb.
Hello.
Caleb, we have had a roller coaster of a few weeks, up and down. The news is weird.
Up. Where are the ups? I don't know what you're talking about.
Fair. It's been a bit different. So, between quarantine and everything else, Netflix is people are going through it.
Yes.
Just everything on there, including Avatar. Sorry, this is not in the notes, but we got to bring up. Go watch Avatar.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing?
There's some weird spirituality in there, but go watch Avatar. What a great show.
Yes.
I mean, the spiritual aspect, I super don't agree with, but
it's just the best thing ever.
Yeah, absolutely. So for a while, it was a number one on Netflix. I think it had that for like 3 weeks, and now it's at a number 9 because people finished it, but they're still going through it. What a great show. But I know I've been going through more stuff because I've had more time as stuff is kind of opening. Movie theaters, let's get it together. Let's start opening those back up.
What are you doing?
But I know that people are going through more streaming service stuff, and people are trying to find things to put out there. A Quibi update, which we're only at a max going to talk about Quibi for 10 minutes because why else would you talk about it for longer? They are, as I understand it, they're failing because they said it was the wrong time to launch a streaming service. You know, when everyone was home and not doing anything.
It's true.
I think they mean it was the wrong time to launch a paid service that I didn't have before, but it was the perfect time to launch a streaming service.
Yeah, I mean, not for them, though. Because their whole marketing scheme is about you being too busy to watch long spans of things. But they had so much time. They could have been like, you know what, we're just going to postpone this until everything's up and running again.
Right.
But
Quibi, I said it before, I'll say it again, that was a whole blend of people that I said, like, how much did they spend for these actors who, for a service I've never heard of?
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting.
No, but so I know people are streaming a ton of different things, and there's a show on Netflix that I know we definitely want to talk about. So on the count of 3, let's just go ahead and say the name of that show together. 1, 2, Fuller House.
No.
Fuller House. It's the final farewell season, Caleb.
Said no one ever.
The final farewell. No, they
I think
actually
you
did
might be the only person watching this.
That maybe because it's the final farewell season.
I forgot that it even happens. I forgot that it was a thing.
I have fallen asleep to so many episodes of Fuller House. No, so all right. The older shows. Did you ever watch those?
Full House?
Yeah. Full House.
Oh yeah, I watched that.
All right. So, kind of describe those, I guess.
House full of people.
But kind of in a thematic way. What's it about? Yeah.
Family.
What's it about? Okay. Now,
friends.
Overall, I thought it was a good show that every now and then tackled important issues. It got very real. They gave DJ an eating disorder. There was bullying. There was all kinds of stuff. Yeah. They had all that stuff. And those are important topics to talk about. I think everyone's going to agree on that, right? Okay, so this show, I've gone through 5 seasons trying to figure out why it just isn't as good. And that's why I've been watching. I've seen almost every episode of Fuller House.
You enjoy it. You enjoy it.
I enjoy it on a nostalgia end. But I figured it out. The show Fuller House is pointless. And that's the problem I have. I've been trying to figure out what is the problem. They haven't tackled a real problem on that show the whole time.
You can't take stances nowadays, Danny.
Wait, I'm sorry? Did we see the news this week? You can't take stances?
Well, I'm saying for like a show like that, you know, there's so much money riding on it. And when you want to please a large amount of people,
right,
it's hard to take a stance on topics without neglecting some side of it.
Sure.
If you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I don't know.
They
Maybe
didn't
that's
tackle
not what they're... I don't know.
any of the difficult things about growing up or any of that. It was just, wow, this family's wacky, wow, and they do crazy stuff, and it just got stranger the whole time. I mean, even the old shows, Step by Step, Family Matters, even going to Sister, hanging with Mr. Cooper, all these things on TGIF, they tackled actual problems and issues in a way that got people to think about them, but also kept it kind of playful. And they didn't do that in this at all. They just kind of, like...
I mean, I think that's such a true thing. Like, I mean, this isn't a right way to view people, but some of the most boring people I know are people who don't have stances on things.
Yeah.
You know? Like, where there's no... You don't know what they believe, and it's just kind of, I don't know. It's boring.
Right. I mean, they even did this on Scrubs, too. Part of the thing that made Scrubs an incredible show is that every now and then it dug deep and got... I've cried through episodes of Scrubs, and it's classified as comedy. And I'm like, what part of... Dr. Cox going crazy because 5 people died on his shift because of a transplant or something. I don't know. That might be House. Hold on. That might be a House plot. But, I mean, Dr. Cox, they made him kind of depressed for a while. They had his brother or his, I don't know, a person connected to him died, and he had a whole episode that he's tripping, kind of thinking that he's there. It was a comedy that wasn't scared to get into it. No, because it was Brendan Fraser in Scrubs.
Oh, so they did it in both. Because it wasn't his brother that he was seeing in House. It was like his wife or girlfriend or something.
Oh no, that was
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Amber. That was just.
I don't even watch House. My roommate's been watching.
Gosh, that was a good episode.
Just picking up on stuff.
That was a good episode. It's different. There was a connection between Brendan Fraser and or his character and Dr. Cox.
Yeah.
And they spend this entire episode essentially pulling a kind of a sixth sense that Dr. Cox is talking to him, and at the end he goes, "Hey, but you know I'm dead," or something. And it's this whole thing of just what. The whole and that's his breaking point is he breaks, and it was crazy. So but it's these programs that they're brave enough to get into it, and Fuller House just didn't get into it. It's just they're doing zany stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even like the worst of like Disney shows still tackled some things that I thought were good. Right. So like, yeah, it's funny to see. Because I would agree. I watched, I think, the first season of Fuller House. Didn't watch anything after that. It was just kind of like...
They're back at it again. Crazy times. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm going to finish it out just to finish it out. But, yeah. What do you... Don't touch my stuff. So,
it's peeling up.
Anywho, there was a streaming show on the count of 3 again. Sorry, my bad. Ready? 1...
Outer Banks.
Tag. Darn it. Tag. Did you see the... Sorry, I have to get into Tag.
Oh my gosh. I cannot stand you. I cannot stand you.
Did you see the commercials for Tag?
I've seen them. I don't want to talk about it because it's not worth talking about.
It's not. It's like American Gladiators, but tag.
All right, yep, cool, and we're done.
Like, what was the concept meeting? What was the concept meeting for that? Hey,
That's
can we get
clapper.
adults to play tag? Well, what's the point of the show? Tag. They're going to jump over stuff, and there's going to be a character who's good at parkour but is a nerd. And they interview him. It's like, actually, the velocity and something. I'm like, this isn't real. So I will be very sad when Tag goes off the air very, very shortly.
So Outer Banks is a new
yes.
show, and it's newish. I mean, it's been out for probably like a couple months now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But people weren't watching it because of the Tiger show.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But Outer Banks, it's a really good show.
Which brings me to a third show I want to talk about.
I will punch you.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Outer Banks.
My fist is clenched.
I had two more lined up, but we can skip them.
But what was I even saying? Oh, yeah. The best way
Outer
to
Banks.
describe it is like The Goonies, but a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Except like a beach town.
Right.
Where
and a bit
everybody loves to fish.
more drama-y.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
Goonies had
It's
a certain
pretty childish, except with a lot of language.
kind of a silliness to it,
Yeah.
but a silliness where they swore a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, do we have time? Can I tell my Goonie story?
Sure.
Okay.
I love Goonies.
Okay.
I'll talk about Goonies any day.
All right, and then I promise we'll actually get into Outer Banks. That's what we're actually going to talk about today. So Goonies. I grew up on the version of the Goonies where we recorded it off of TV in the early 90s. So, like, to me, The Goonies is a relatively clean movie that doesn't have much swearing in it, just the occasional D or H word. So, like, I had seen this movie growing up off of a VHS. I taped off of CBS or ABC or something.
Yeah.
And so, like, time goes by. I'm employed at a church. We have to have a movie night. I get The Goonies. And I start to play it. And I'm like, oh, this is a different movie. But, like,
that's hilarious.
You're already in, like, in for a penny, in for a pound at that point. Like,
yeah.
Like, you can't course correct at that point. You just quickly draft the apology email. I didn't know. I had no idea.
That's interesting.
It was PG, but PG didn't come about till after that kind of a movie. PG PG-13. It was created after that because the difference between PG and R was so expansive that they needed something between them, and they tended to err on, instead of making things R, they made them PG. So they had to put in a PG-13 as this kind of like, it's a middle point, and I think they did that mid to late 80s or something. So I showed this movie to like a bunch of they were young, like, I mean, they were like early middle school something, and I was just staring at this going like, I'm going to get fired. This is it.
I grew up watching the full version, I guess you could call it, which is kind of funny because I feel like our parents were kind of restrictive of what we should watch.
Right.
And then there was the Goonies.
Except for the Goonies, yeah.
Where they're gluing the penis of the marble statue on backwards.
I did not see that scene until I was 26. That is not a joke. The first time I saw that scene, I was 26. I'm like, did we get the director's cut? And people are like, no, this has always been in the movie. I'm like, bull. It has not. This has not always been in. I know.
Danny
I've seen it over and over.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, man. So anyway, to all my youth pastor, children's pastor friends, watch the movie beforehand, just because your memory of it may not be what you think it is.
But anyways, Outer Banks.
Outer Banks, yes. I'm enjoying it. I'm most of the way through it.
Yeah, and so we've come to the conclusion that I have to spoil the rest for Danny. Because there's just so much that happens that he's missed, and we're here to talk about Outer Banks, first of all, and then Christian themes within it.
Right.
Like, what can we find
that
is building in this, and
where's God in this, and how do we make the connections?
I have to spoil this, and if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's really good,
but then come back to this podcast because, again, as we've stated before, that's 2 download counts for us, and we're all about that.
But yeah, and I don't want to spoil because I'm about to spoil the most juicy parts.
Yeah. So to clarify, he doesn't want to spoil it for you.
I want to spoil it for Danny.
Yeah, he's fine with that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so what happens in the show? So, I mean, the whole thing is about this guy named John B., and his dad dies or something, or maybe, I don't know.
Disappears.
And he disappears, and they're trying to find this treasure to kind of honor his dad and also maybe find his dad in the process.
Right.
Yeah.
And the treasure is like the shipwreck, which is why I say Goonies. But it has like 400 million gold on it or something.
400 million.
But he has a group of friends who are there. And there's a lot of other stuff going on. Like
a lot of class warfare is a big theme in that.
Class warfare.
There's the kooks and the pogues.
Yep. And
which one of those feels like very close to something I shouldn't be able to say.
Are the richer people, and the pogues are the lower class.
Let me just see if I need to bleep that word out. You keep talking.
And so basically there's a lot of like people after this gold, let's just say that. And so it's dangerous, and I mean, and yeah, I don't know, it's a fun show because they have good chemistry. And so basically where are you up to, so I can clarify this again before I explain what happens in the rest of it.
They know where the money went, and the guy just got pushed off the tower. So after
John B.
Yeah, John B. got pushed off a tower.
What's her face's boyfriend?
Sarah.
Former boyfriend pushes him off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wakes up in the hospital, and Sarah's dad is like, "Hey, I want to be your dad."
and they're kooks. They're from the richer part of town.
Right.
And John B. and his friends are pogues. They're from the poorer part of town. That they have to. They're the working class essentially, and the others are.
The people who haven't seen it haven't listened to this. They haven't listened to this.
Well, I know, but just in case they're not going to watch it, I'm just recapping.
Go watch it. How dare you? Why are you still here? Why are you still here?
No. We're glad you're here.
Yes, we are.
You can back up with that craziness. So anyway,
go watch it.
Yeah, the kook named Topper pushes John B. off the top of this thing, and this kind of kicks off the final part of the final 2 episodes. So you may now spoil a show for me from here on out. So
they found the gold, right?
Spit tech.
From where you are.
They know where the gold went. That the one guy who founded the town took it, or that bought the space took it. Oh. So they haven't found it.
Oh, okay. So
spit take ready. Here we go.
So, wow, I thought that you were a bit further than that. Okay, so they eventually find out that he buried that in a specific place that's under this crazy lady's house. And so they're trying to go find it. It's literally under her house. There's this well, and then there's like this divot in the well that has like all of these little gold bars stacked up in it. And John B finds it, and they're like freaking out. And they're like, ah! And they found that one piece. And then they melt it down, and they try and sell it to a pawn shop, and that like one piece is worth like 50 grand or something. So they're trying to get what's worth, but it turns out the pawn shop is actually like run by the back end by these people who are bad. And it's the guy who was selling drugs to Sarah's brother, the one who rides the dirt bike. Very angsty.
Yeah.
So
the 20-year-old who's going to the high school parties to sell cocaine.
Right.
Which, by the way, right though, I mean, like,
what, 20-year-old parties to sell cocaine?
That classifies as that guy. It's like, I'm going to the high school party, even though I'm 20. It's like, hey, dude, it's time to move on. Like, it's time to move on with your life.
Yeah.
You know?
But anyways, so the pawn shop lady is like, hey, we have a warehouse where we can give you what you want in cash. You just have to meet us there. So they drive out there.
Right.
And then That cop pulls up behind them on the way, and they're like freaking out. And then it's actually that one guy, and he like pulls a gun on them, makes them get on the ground.
Which one guy?
Searches for the gold. The guy who's selling drugs.
The 20-year-old who's selling drugs to the high schoolers.
Yeah, he has a ponytail.
Yeah.
So, wow, there's a lot to get through here. So, anyways, I gotta talk faster.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm gonna kill you guys if you get up, and then they actually are able to sneak around and get away.
Right.
And basically throw his keys in the woods. So they get away, and what's-his-face is like, hey, we should go steal money from him.
Who is what's-his-face?
The blonde kid who smokes a lot of weed.
Yes, okay, yeah. I will say, in this show, there's a fair amount of Scooby-Dooing.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, quick, get in the van, and then they run away, or they have to like sneak by.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Scooby-Dooing in this thing that I'm like, oh, we'll just sneak past the armed guards or something.
Yeah.
I'm half expecting them to like encounter a ghost, pull the mask off. It's like, Old Man Smithers.
Yeah.
I would have got away with it, work for you kids, you know?
Yeah, it is very Scooby-Doo-ish.
Right.
But, so they drive away, and he's like, we got to go to his house, since he just did that to us, and he was all upset. And they steal, like, 25 grand from him. Mm-hmm. And you know how he's stuck up for Pope.
Yes. Yeah, okay. He got arrested for Pope, yes.
So he's like, brings it to his dad, and he's like, hey, I got the restitution money.
Okay.
And his dad's like,
I don't know
I'm
if
so proud
anyone
of you.
is following this.
No, yeah, that's why I'm telling you.
Okay,
well,
you're telling
people
me.
who've seen it will follow
We're gonna cut this. It's fine.
So basically, his dad, who is abusive, he's like, well, I'm just gonna use this to buy more alcohol and stuff, and like on what I want. And then he's like, no, and he beats him up, and then his son actually, what is his name? Do you know his name? JJ or something like that. He actually beats up his dad, runs with the money. And basically, through all of this, they're trying to figure out a way to get this heavy gold up from the well.
Yes, JJ.
In order to take it and melt it all down.
Right.
And then, so, John B. is talking about this with Sarah, and, what's his face? The dad. What's his name again? Something. Ward overhears this.
All I know is that the dad is from Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I can't unsee that. Chip Eston. He was in Whose Line Is It Anyway? And as soon as I saw him come on, like, is that Chip Eston? And I gotta hand it to him. He's trying to have a career beyond Whose Line Is It Anyway? And
he did great, in my opinion.
He's actually doing a great job. But, man, I've seen him in, like, hundreds of episodes of Whose Line that I'm like... now do it as a ninja! You know, like, do the scene different, you know?
Yeah.
Take recommendations.
So, he overhears this, and he knows that they found the gold. And so he's trying to figure out where. And basically... So he's on to this, and he hears that they're trying to pull it up on, like, Friday or something like that. Okay. Just choosing some random day. So he's like, walks out, interrupts their conversation. He's like, John B., you know what? We're going fishing on Friday. I'm going to take you out on the boat. And then they're like, he's like, okay, because he felt bad, and he was like, he's just like taking care of me, so I need to do what he says. Now I'm going to jump forward because a lot of other stuff is
kind of despite the fact that this guy is giving off major I'm the bad guy vibes. Yeah. Like, first time I saw him, I was just like, I don't care, he's the bad guy. Like, it's him. It's Chip Eston.
First time you saw him?
Yeah, first time.
No, he was pretty good in like the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, no, but he's the bad guy.
He was barely in the first 3 episodes.
I know. First time I saw him, like, that is the bad guy.
Whatever.
That is the bad guy.
I don't believe you.
Is he the bad guy? Continue with your story.
Yeah, you'll find out.
I will lean back on my ability to predict shows.
Jumping forward in time, him and John B go fishing, and he's like, talks to John B. He's like, I know you found the gold. John B is like denying all of it. And
he stares at John B and says, I want to know where the gold at.
Yeah. He's like, I want to dig it up.
Do you not know the...
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I want to know where the gold at.
I don't know what that is.
From the Leprechaun guy, where they auto-tuned it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Comment in the description, in the comments, if you know what I'm talking about. Man, you just pooped all over that joke.
He's like, I want to know where the gold is. Tell me. I know you know where it is. And John B's denying it, so it's making him upset. And then he gets his hook. Because he's the bad guy.
Who could have seen that coming on the first episode?
He's trying to kill John B, and he's like going around. They're on his like huge yacht fighting each other basically, and John B is able to drop one of the jet skis off and jet off. I was like, what's the proper word to use here?
Ski away.
Ski away. So, but then the gas runs out and he's like stuck in the middle of this area, so he has to swim home. And then he goes to that one lady's house and he's like, "Oh,
who's the one
why
lady?
Is Ward bad?" And she's like, "Well, Ward killed your dad."
Is that the sheriff?
No. Oh gosh, there's so much to get through here. Why did I agree to do this?
I don't know.
But then, skipping forward even more, Ward finds the gold. He has a whole crew that's like took it out, and John B goes back in the well and he's like, "Oh, where is it? Oh no!" And he's just crying like a little baby, and then he's like, "Ward sold the money," and then he figures out that Ward is trying to fly the gold to the Bahamas to get out of America.
Right.
And so he knows this because Pope's dad is like, "Oh, Ward just hired me to go help cut down some trees that are blocking the runway because he needed more runway because there's a lot of weight on the plane."
And so Carol Baskins, although Ward's trying to make it to the Bahamas.
Oh my gosh.
Ward gets fed to tigers. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm not going to appreciate your joke.
I know. But I do it for you, audience.
So then John B is like, he breaks onto the runway as the plane's taking off within his little car, and he like drives in front of the plane, and the plane stops. And it's important to note that he was trying to take Sarah with him,
right?
Because he knew that she was in on all of it, and so she's upset. And then the
Sarah,
sheriff
who
comes,
is Ward's daughter, and the ex-girlfriend of the guy who almost killed him.
Yeah.
When you say all these things back to back, this sounds terrible, but it's a really good show.
All right, we got a lot more story to go through.
No,
so
we
let's
don't.
Continue.
No, we do.
Yeah,
we really?
Yeah, dude. I'm like 2 episodes away.
Okay.
I gotta hurry this up.
No. Like summarize.
I'm trying my best.
It's the actual stuff we have to talk about.
How much I've skipped.
It's the actual stuff we have to talk about.
I am talking about the actual stuff. Okay, so what happens is then he pulls off, and then Ward's like, "I'm gonna kill you." And then the sheriff shows up because John B told the sheriff that Ward killed his dad. And so she's like, "I'm here to arrest you, Ward." And then she gets shot from behind. And they're like, "Oh, who shot her?" And then she falls down, and it's Ward's son, Sarah's brother.
The drug dealer. Cocaine.
No, not the dealer, the snorter.
the guy selling to high schoolers.
No, he's not selling. No.
He sold at the party. He had the cocaine at the party.
Yeah,
he sells to high schoolers.
Right, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that guy. And it's important to note that Ward kicked him out of the house because of his like whole drug thing going on. So he was
he
trying to like save his dad.
Murder good, drug use not so good.
Basically, then Ward is like all upset and he's trying to think and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to pin this on John B because it's important to note when he was on the yacht, I forgot to say this, he took a spear gun and stabbed him in his arm, and he was like, "John B attacked me. He's like mentally insane."
Right.
So he already started the rumor that John B's bad.
Okay.
And so he told everyone else that John B killed this sheriff. So the whole town is after him.
Right.
They're like, the military is coming because they can't find him, and he's hiding. And so their plan is to go to the Bahamas. So they're trying to get this boat. So all of his friends are like risking everything going on in their lives to get John B out of there. And then
also DCS is coming. Now this is a point I want to bring up here because they keep bringing up that he is a minor, and I keep forgetting that he is a minor because it's one of those cases that people in their mid to late 20s are playing like high schoolers, and they're saying it's like, yeah, he's a child, he's 16, and I'm like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
The guy who plays John B. And how old do you think he is?
He is probably like 25.
27. Yes, he's 27.
27? What?
And he's like, hello, fellow students. I too am in high school. 27.
Okay, well, anyways, so there's a big storm coming in, and they're like hiding on this boat because they're trying to get away.
Right.
But then all the power on the island turns back on, and the lighthouse turns on, and it like reflects against the boat, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's him!" And then they go after him, and they're chasing him into the storm.
Jason Bourne.
Then
John B.
the storm like stirs everything up, and then they wake up, and they're in Nassau.
Oh, that's the end. Okay, that's the end. Sorry.
That was a lot, and I skipped a lot, but that's the important
cliffhanger
piece.
is they wake up in Nassau, Bahamas.
Yes.
Thank goodness they didn't end up at a mountain town or something. What would he do? He'd have to button his shirt.
I know, right?
The whole thing is like, let's see if we can get in the water, unbutton the shirt, and show off these abs. So, yeah. No, I mean,
were you following? Do you follow? The important thing to note here through all of this is that the friends were really like sacrificing themselves in order to get John B. off of this island. And to just support him through the whole thing. Right. But anyways, I left out a lot of stuff. But.
Yeah. Overall, I think I'm just going to have to watch it and finish it out myself.
Oh, yeah. No, you are.
Because, like...
You're going to do that.
Saying those things back to back, I can kind of see it, but man, that is crazy. Like, that is just... if you... that is... To hear those things, this is part about, TV shows and this kind of stuff that's hard to explain to some people, is that growing up, I had to watch shows and then wait a week. Mm-hmm. So when you say all those things back to back, that sounds as if the person who wrote 2020, a year 2020 that all of us are experiencing, and then the military's coming, and then Ward, but he stabbed himself in the arm, but then he's fine, but then he goes to see John B, but then the power comes back on and flashes out the lighthouse, and they see him in the boat, but then he wakes up in the Nassau, Bahamas. It's like, what is happening? Like, it makes more sense. No, I think that you actually explained it great, but there's so many things that just happen back to back that's like, I now need to see this, and I feel bad for the amount of sleep I'm going to get tonight because I just have to finish it now. Yeah. Stupid.
But it's really good.
Right.
And basically, we can talk about the
yeah, so as far as that goes, because as a person that's gone through everything, what parts of it other than plot stood out as kind of positive positive themes in this? I mean,
I think for me, it's like the friendship stuff.
Yeah.
And how the group of Pogues, they really kind of stick together and support John B.
Yeah.
Although, like, chasing after treasure isn't good, but like they're there for him. If that makes sense.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Chasing after treasure isn't good.
Well, chasing after treasure after you almost got killed like 20 times, yeah. I'd be like, I'm out. But they understand that's it's more than just
yeah.
It's more than just like chasing treasure. It's about his dad, and it's
sure,
and it's good for John B.
Yeah,
and they sacrifice a lot of like their things in their own life to support him, and like that's cool to me. And I feel like as Christians we often do that on smaller scales and even bigger scales sometimes, like and I think it's an important thing to be there for other people.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean that I was actually kind of, the more I was watching, the more I thought about it. That's kind of the stuff I was thinking about. That group of friends was close, and gosh, I'm trying to get to like, and not get crazy personal, but that's been that kind of closeness of people. I haven't really had that in a long time. That I kind of felt I was drawn towards that group of people, that they just do everything together, that they experience that they're bonded together through good and bad. That, I mean, there's a character that goes to jail and takes a $30,000 punishment because it would help out his friend be able to go to college and get scholarships and that kind of thing, and just, that kind of bond. To be honest, it made me a little bit nostalgic for the people I knew in high school. That was our rowing team of all of us just did everything together, and it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I had that, I've talked about it a bit, I had that span throughout my 20s that stuff got kind of dark for a bit, and I just didn't really have that, and it's still difficult to build back up to trusting people to that amount. I've gotten a lot better, but no, I know I've talked about it a bit, but I had a Mike in high school. I don't know if I've told this. He was probably my best friend in high school, and I was just having a bad day. Speech impediment was really bad. I was tired. I was cranky, and I wanted to cry. And so I didn't talk to anybody during practice, and Mike kind of saw that and tucked it away in his head, like, okay, Danny's not talking at all. So I don't know why. And I towards the end of practice, he came to talk and say, hey, everything okay? And I, because I was like on the edge of breakdown, so I took my sunglasses and I put them over my face because I knew I was going to tear up, and said, no, I'm fine. And he goes, nope. And he takes them off my face and says, okay, now really, are you okay? Mm-hmm. And then I just like, okay, waterworks, let's go. But it was that kind of a friend. Well, it was that kind of thing that it was important to carry that kind of bond. That I think even that's a kind of biblical stance to all of us are to care about our brothers and sisters in Christ during the good, during the bad, during the crazy, during the we're trying to be killed, to just care about each other and be there to hold each other up. I mean, yeah. So that kind of stuck out a ton, is that these are people that they're willing to do anything to help each other out, and I really appreciated that. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. Do you want to read it for us?
Yep. 2 are better than 1, because they have good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken.
So Caleb, if you're trying to explain this to a person, how is the body of Christ intended to treat each other as kind of depicted in Ecclesiastes 4, which, by the way, people give this book a bad rap, because this in Lamentations, people give those, it's like, no, I skip those because one's really depressing and the other is really depressing for other things. But there's great gospel themes throughout these books that I encourage people to go through them, especially this passage. But kind of according to this, then what's it trying to tell us about the importance of being together as brothers and sisters in Christ?
Right. I think that, it's important, because being alone it's just not good. Like it says, you can survive,
right?
Being on your own, but it's not smart,
right? And
it's not safe.
No.
I think a good example is, like animals out in the wild.
Yeah.
You're gonna get taken down if you're alone. Like in Africa, that's a good example. Like gazelles, all that stuff. Like you're gonna be taken down. So like being with people, it's always better. And I think in a Christian sense, I feel like it's talking about community and having those brothers and sisters in Christ that that you can go to,
right?
Because it's always going to be better than
Right.
Having no one to go to. Of course, like, you can always go to God.
Yeah.
But he's saying, I mean, like...
Yeah. There's a reason I put other people there.
There's a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge thing.
There's a reality to this. I kind of enjoy that it talks about that if they fall, one's going to pick up the other, and I think that is an important, crucial aspect of this. That it was kind of coming out through Outer Banks. Sorry, I've not been able to say the name of the show correct. It's been Outer Wilds, Outer Lands.
Danny, when we had our show notes, he had it as Outer Lands, and I
think is a game.
Yeah, and I just let it ride. I was like, I'm just gonna let him figure out. But anyways,
yeah. So what you should have done according to this verse is help pick me up when I'm falling.
Change it to Outer Banks.
Yeah, like he means well. He works hard. It's Outer Banks. No, I mean that's kind of this thing throughout that kind of show. I mean, John B's going through some stuff. His dad, he thought, was dead. People have tried to kill him. They've broken into his house. They thought he was going off to jail. They thought he was going off to juvie. They thought, despite the fact that he's 27, they thought he was going to juvie. Despite the fact that they also thought he was going into foster care, and he wasn't interested in that. He's been stabbed. He's been shot at. He's been almost drowned, and his friends, at a point, they even told him that this chase is it isn't a chase to actually find this treasure. Mm-hmm. But then they stopped and said, but I know this is a thing you have to do in order to get through the loss of your father.
Right.
And so I'm in it. And it wasn't easy. They fought as friends. They did fight. Mm-hmm. They disagreed. They argued. But in spite of that, when it came down to it, they had each other's back, and they did anything to help each other out. And I mean, for Christians, that's a crucial aspect of our faith is being able to be that to our brothers and sisters in Christ. That if they're going through a thing, that is a point I need to go like, okay, this is going to cost me stuff to do this, but it is right to help my brother. Now, granted, this show, I don't think that's okay to do at the expense of committing felonies and stealing, and like you still, there's the ethical aspect of you can't steal boats and equipment and break into things, because that's not actually helping them. But no, I think that's crucial in the Christian faith. Is going, hey, I have a brother in a need, and I have a friend that is in a need, and I have to be there for him, even when it's difficult and hurts. Mm-hmm. That the other aspect that kind of jumped out to me, it was kind of this connection between the Kooks and the Pogues. The Kooks had all the money, the assets. As the hurricane came through, they got their power on first. They had these swanky parties. They still did all these things that it was a demonstration of their wealth, but deep down they were all kind of miserable about it. I mean, money didn't bring them any happiness. And I think there's kind of a cultural pressure that in order to be happy or be a person of worth, that a person needs to have millions and millions of dollars and have everything their heart actually kind of desires. But in truth, all that actually points us to is the kid that does cocaine at the high school parties. He's getting everything his heart kind of is craving. He's living through the glory days, snorting cocaine with high schoolers, and that's what his heart wanted. And it isn't until he gets to understanding there's a deeper and better things. Actually, I don't think that character does do that, but on our end, those things will never bring us happiness, because it's going to write a check it just can't cash. So
that's a good thing. I mean, and that's like the Pogues. they all have like that sense of like family and being together because they're not relying on money as heavily, and it's kind of a theme within Sarah as well. How when she's hanging out with John B at first, she's like, I don't want to be a kook, you know, like having money and going to all these fancy parties and all this stuff isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Right.
And she wants like real relationships. Yeah. So like
that was her big character struggle, is figuring out like, if I'm a kook, I have status. But if I'm with the Pogues, I've tapped into something better than status. Right. I have joy. There's actual joy in just enjoying the everyday. Right. Instead of needing to maintain appearances and you keep everything polished. It's an inauthentic presentation that doesn't last.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I thought was a good theme is reconciliation with one another. Because there's a part in the show where one of the Pogues who like used to be a kook, I guess you could call it, what's her name?
Key.
Key, yeah.
Kira, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. She's got money, but she hangs out
with the Pogues. She had some like beef back in the day with Sarah, and like things went astray. So like she super didn't like Sarah. And when John B and her started like becoming in a relationship with one another, like she was not okay with it, and like her being in on the whole shipwrecked money thing, and because she thought it was just gonna go downhill. But there was this part where all the guys in the group trapped them on a boat, and I don't know, did you see that part?
Nope.
Oh, well, here we go. Well, they kind of are forced to talk because they drive away. They give them like food and stuff on the boat, and they just like force them to be with each other. And I think it's important to clarify on both sides what happened. Like if you need to forgive someone, like being able to clarify what their perspective was, not just what you perceived it to be. Right. And understanding why they did what they did, and true forgiveness, you know, like, and sometimes you don't get that, of course, like you just need to forgive people, and it's hard, but I think that was a good scene for me, because it was just forgiveness is like.
Well, there's see, this is the thing, and I've probably talked about it before, and I'll say it again. The steps of me forgiving a person is 100% independent of the apology process. They're not connected, and they shouldn't be connected, because if you do a thing to anger me and never apologize for it, I should still forgive you. Even if I never apologize for it. If there's just no conversation of, hey, you got to hash this out. Now, granted, it's still important to hash out those conversations, but if I'm carrying this thing that I'm angry at, a thing that, you know, maybe we haven't even talked about, but if I'm just carrying it, then that isn't, I mean, kind of the bigger thing is that isn't being a Christ in the middle of that, but also it's just going to stress me out. I've been angry at people for a long span of time, only to come to understand that they didn't even think about me. And I'm holding on to this constant stream of anger that they have none feelings. Yeah. And that just made me more upset. And I had to get to this point of, okay, they've hurt me a ton, and I can choose to just cling to that and stay here and just be a miserable old bat until I am dead because of this, or I have to give that up and actually just kind of go like, I'm giving it to God and going like, okay, that's it. I'm not gonna hold this against them. Yeah. Actually, there's a girl in high school. We were angry at each other for 3 months, and one day both of us just came to the conclusion, like, we didn't know why we actually hated each other. We couldn't figure it out. I think maybe this person made a snide comment, and then I made a snide comment. In actuality, probably I made the snide comment first. But, who shot first, Han or not, Yeah. It was probably me, though. But and we just hated each other, and until both of us says, like, hey, I'm not even sure why I'm mad, but I'm sorry.
Right.
And we kind of became closer friends. Granted, never best friends, but I actually enjoyed talking to her in class at that point because both of us got to a place of going, I'm not going to hold this against them because I don't even know what this is, and I know Christ is greater than this thing.
Right.
So I don't know. Do you think where does that play out in a Christian to be able to drop our kind of a negative feelings towards a person in order to be Christ to them?
I mean, yeah, I think it plays out because it's not healthy for either of you. And Christ forgave us, and we need to forgive other people. Like, that is not... I don't take that lightly in my own life. Like, that's something that I think can be overlooked. Forgiveness, but it is crucial because the moment you don't forgive someone, it just eats away at you.
Yeah.
Eats away at, like you were saying,
your
anger.
Heart. It eats away at
it's bad.
The physical heart is damaged from it.
And it is not
weird.
It's not safe. So forgiving people is what Christ called us to do, and that's the main reason we do it. And not only because Christ called us to do it, but because it's healthy. You're healthier when you're not angry all the time.
Right.
It's just fact. So forgiving people is super important.
And now, have you ever been angry at a person that turned out to be nothing or not as big as the thing that you made it up to be in your head?
Yeah. I think everyone has.
I mean, so how does a person get to that point? I mean, I know I have. This week, I know I have. But how does a person get to that point, and what can they do to kind of stop that point?
I think a lot of it begins, at least for me personally, in like overthinking, or just meditating on that for way too long. Yeah. Because like it starts out as like thinking about that thing that really bugged you that they did, and then you keep on thinking about it, and then it reminds you of all these past times that they did similar things, and you're like, starts building up this pressure. Yeah. And you're like, you know what? I just don't like them. Right. At some point, you just say that in your head.
They always do this. I'm thinking of all the times they've done it. I mean, it's confirmation bias because you have time to think about it.
Right. Yeah. And the moment you start to do that, and like you said, like in cases where they're probably not even thinking about you during all of it. And the best way to combat that is to, I mean, I personally don't really know the best answer. I mean, I would say, just off the top of my head, like, stop thinking about it and start praying about it. Is a good thing to do.
Right.
Instead of talking to yourself about this person, talk to God about it, and I'm sure he'll have a lot better direction than yourself.
I mean, at a minimum, pray blessing over them. I mean, because if I'm praying that they be blessed, it's really difficult for me to be angry at them if I'm... And I know this is a bit kind of a weird thing to say, but if I'm praying that they're blessed to have a good day and understand God closer in their day-to-day, if I'm praying that as a constant prayer, then that chips at the anger because I'm actually praying positive things that it changes the way I view them towards a positive.
Yeah.
That I'm being intentional about, even though they may or may not have done a thing to anger me, I am still wishing that God's favor could fall on them. And that takes strength to do because it's the same thing as praying about your enemies coming to Christ. I mean that's the most difficult thing I've watched people struggle through anytime there's a thing in the news. I mean, ISIS stuff. So many people are, as all that had been going down, like, I hope God smites them in the face and they're dead. And it's like, okay, so you're actually called to pray for their well-being.
Yeah.
So, like, let's be clear. You don't get to pray that God smites them, because you would have to pray that God applies that standard evenly, and you don't want that, because I'm as sinful as they are. So I'm intended to say, like, hey, God, they're lost, and I pray that they could come home.
Yep.
And find the blessing of the presence of God.
And it hurts sometimes.
Oh, it really does.
It's like, I remember doing it one time, and like this person was really bugging me, and like so much to where when I was praying about them, I was like,
Lord, bless them in the face with a brick.
Not even like that. Yeah. It was like hard to get out. Like, it was like, God, I really just hope that they have a great day.
Right.
You know, and you're like grinding your teeth throughout it.
Right. Or just the shortest prayer that you can possibly muster up, like, dear God, for Gary, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
You for Gary, huzzah, you know, like, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's super easy to just like you said with the whole ISIS thing on for things that are above, not even above us, but far away from us, to just kind of push them away, and like, it's not someone personally in your life, so you're like, I pray that they just die, you know, like, how helpful is that? It's not healthy either.
Hey, God, I hope that person burns in hell forever. Like, what kind of... I mean, that's the prayer that you're saying. Right. If they don't know Christ, then I'm praying that they would never know Christ, or that they wouldn't... never experience the grace of God. And I don't think I can justifiably pray that at any particular point and say, like, I'm being Christ-like. You know, I don't think I can do that.
Right.
And say, I hope they die and never give their heart to Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, like, even in current events right now, like the cop who kneeled on George Floyd's neck. Everything inside of me is like, I don't like that guy.
Right.
I want him not here.
Right.
You know, like...
Right.
And through that, it becomes a problem, not only in just... It's just a problem, but like, I feel like it bleeds into your personal life as well.
Yeah.
And how you view people that you don't like, they're actually you see every day, you know.
Right. Then I'm the arbiter of justice and truth, and I'm not supposed to be that. I'm supposed to be the grace of God and the presence of Christ in the place I'm at.
Right.
It's intended to be the expression of grace through my works to other people.
And it's hard sometimes too, because like, praying for that guy, you know, you're gonna get you know, roasted by the people who are in the world, you know, like that's
on
not okay.
Either side. Like, there's probably someone in this situation that you disagree with. Pray for that person.
Yeah, no, I mean, but like, in sticking up for people who did bad things, and not even sticking up, but praying for them,
and
thinking about it in a positive way, because that's what Christ called us to do. Yeah. The world looks at that and they're like,
well, why aren't you flat out condemning him? Like, because I can't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if I condemn him, I condemn me, because I'm as awful as he is, and all of us are that awful.
Right. Yeah.
We're all totally depraved and need Jesus. So if I have experienced the joy and grace of Jesus, then why shouldn't they?
Exactly. Yep.
So, I mean, that's the harder is especially in all this, people have a lot of thoughts. Well, no, they have a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
but is that too far? Hold on. People, everybody is just prepared to just open fire, metaphorically.
Okay.
I'm really going
Let's
down a hole
move on.
here. No, I mean, like, everybody's trying to is just angry.
They're at each other's throats.
There we go.
That's what my mom would say. They're at each other's throats.
See, that's not a good one either. Okay.
God.
Everybody's angry, and I think coming to God and saying, God, I pray for my enemy is going to be very beneficial to all of us, as hard as that's going to be. then there's other cases that if they're a brother or sister in Christ and I'm angry at them, then I've found, instead of thinking about it for 3 days or mulling it over, you just need to just bite the bullet, call them up and be like, hey man, I'm upset and we gotta talk. But extend to them that kind of grace of, I'm upset and I love you, my brother, so now I need to fight so we can go back to being brother and sister in Christ again.
Right.
That's super important. Yeah, that's the idea, is this fight has to happen so we can go back to caring about each other, because there's this thing between us and I need it to not be between us. And I think the more time that these things stew, the bigger they become. It grows, and it doesn't grow into anything.
It makes
good.
it more awkward, especially when the other person thinks you already forgave them too.
Hey, I'm mad at you for a thing you did
like
3
2
months
years
ago.
later, and you bring that up.
You stole my bread. Like, what? What are you talking about?
It's gonna hurt them as well. You know, like, you got to think about that. The fact that you are still haven't forgiven them,
right,
when they thought it was done and over. You know, it's just good to forgive. I mean, try and do it as
forgive others
as you can.
You want.
And I think it's important to note too, like, a huge thing, and I know a lot of people say this and it's true, is that I just can't forgive them. And I believe that to be 100% true. And let me dive into my reasoning on why before you judge me. Is that I think it's because God has forgiven me that I'm able to forgive. That, like, there's oftentimes, I mean, of course there's the small stuff where you can just forgive them. But, like, on things where you truly, it's a huge thing in your life, I just can't forgive them. You know, I believe it is God who helps you forgive. Yeah. You know, there's times where you cannot do it without him.
Okay, yeah.
And that's kind of, that's where I was going full circle with that.
I guess that's way nicer. I was going to accuse people of being petty and just say, won't. Can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is
I mean,
that.
like,
you know, like, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's times where you need God to do it. Yeah. And it's going to take some time and some prayer. And some talking about your own self with God that will help it get done.
Yeah.
But, so, like, any time you feel like you just can't do it, I feel like that's a good sign that, you know, like, God is kind of urging you to.
A thing I found to be very beneficial is if I'm offended or hurt or upset, I've had to stop and say, like, okay, why am I angry about this? Because I actually get kind of astounded if I get upset at a thing and people that are good friends of mine don't, and they're like, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm like, it's not fine. Everything's not fine. Why aren't you following me down this angry road? And they're like, well, it's not a big deal. I'm like, it's a huge deal. So figuring out, you know, like, why am I upset about this, in order to understand where I'm coming from to best communicate that. I mean, you know, during the times that there's been even fights between us, it's been more of a communication problem of I'm interpreting things that you didn't say, or gosh, I just had the urge to dig and I don't know why, or you're just being a jerk. I mean that's been kind of the thing, and it's been slung both directions, that I'll say a thing or do a thing that you interpret as something else entire, and I'm just like, what? I don't know where we are anymore. But then I know that's gone the other direction, that I've been like, oh, now we're fighting, and you're like, why are we fighting? Like, because we crossed the line, and you're like, what line? I mean, it's more of a communication thing, but understanding this injured me, why? Because for a good amount of that's just uncovered these areas that are raw that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
So are you laughing at my pain over there? Man.
Nothing. But okay. Yeah, no, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's a big thing in this whole show too. Getting back to the real quick. I mean, because you have that, and then there's the thing between JJ
Abrams, yes.
And like his dad, and how there. I mean, there's just a lot, but and it's good. You know, I think it's what I appreciate about us doing stuff like this, where it's either a movie or a TV show where we find, you know, things that God has kind of pointed out to us through it, is that it shows that it kind of separates the good and the bad things, and shows, in my mind at least, where I can pick out where there are good themes, but know that the show is not overall is not overall good, if that makes sense. And then like when you watch this show, there's going to be things in there that are not Christ-like.
And then they fell to their knees, said Jesus, and sang Kumbaya together.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's how the show actually ended.
Yeah. They got to the Bahamas, but landed at a church, and then everything was fine, and they gave the money to the poor.
Yes.
No. Yeah, no, I do appreciate that, because it's this understanding that the things in Scripture, the things God tells us, actually do get expressed in every day, even if it's through a fictional story, that there is this kind of deep understanding or deep calling to a thing greater than our own, that there's a deep calling to God, to this kind of connection that people don't even understand, but it is still there calling them. So, I do appreciate it. I mean, to be clear, there is sexual content, a lot of violence, drugs, sexual content, drugs, swearing. There's a fair amount of swearing. So, if
there's no gluing on penises upside down.
Gosh, we said that twice in this. Oof, big oof. But overall, out of 5 stars, do we have a rating system for this? Out of 5 stars.
5 stars, that's fine with me.
5 stars, how many do you give it?
I'd give it 3.5.
I knew you were going to say 3.5.
I have trouble giving things a perfect 5 stars. I don't know why I just grabbed the microphone.
Just grab the microphone.
For some reason. I was like, this is an interesting point. But yeah, I have trouble giving things a perfect 5 stars. So a 3.5 is good for me.
Yeah,
really
I mean,
good.
I guess I have more lax standards. I'd give it a 4. It's 4-star. Granted, these last few episodes could really push it into 5 territory for me.
Yep.
In general, if I make it this far into a show, I tend to just trick my brain into saying I really like it. So even if it's bad, Fuller House, even if it's bad,
yeah, exactly. That was what I was about to bring up.
I've committed this. It's kind of like
you've wasted.
Listen, this is a terrible metaphor.
So much time in your life.
Parents of like really bad, misbehaving children, they spend so much time into it. You still gotta love. You still gotta love the child. That's a horrible metaphor.
Wow,
that's
is
really
terrible.
bad. This cup is empty. I think that's the problem.
You think children are just investments? I've already invested this much. I might as well just
years
continue.
Into them. No,
Gosh.
No. It's you spend enough time. You do actually care about a thing, though. Not parenting.
Yeah, you're just.
Are we cutting
sounds
this?
terrible.
This is getting cut. This is getting cut. So anyway, Caleb.
I'm nervous for Danny's child.
Yeah, man. If they. People should ask us questions and give us things to talk about, because we want to hear from you at home. Caleb, where can they go to send us messages?
You can go to thegospelpostcom/nobodyspecial, where you can find our podcast, and you can send in questions or just say hello. And then you can also go to Nobody Special Podcast, and
on
there
Facebook
you can,
and Instagram.
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram. You can DM us there if you want to ask questions or say hello. And you can just, follow our page if you would like. Stay a little,
Absolutely. Comment.
Yeah.
Share.
And then YouTube, where you can subscribe, like, comment, where you can also ask us questions.
They can also give us thumbs up.
Yep.
And watch it on YouTube. That's actually very helpful to us. So comment.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it.
No.
But if you could, I'll say it out of order. Subscribe, like, comment, ring the bell, bookmark the page, write it down in a journal. RSS feed. No, there's so many things you have to do to like actually get notifications now. So anyway,
but yeah, we appreciate you guys listening and sending in questions or just saying hello. It's awesome.
Makes our day.
And then also, we haven't brought this up in a while, but the Project Joy 365. If you use that hashtag, it'll be on a little page on Gospel Outpost that will pop up. And your post will be shown there.
thegospeloutpost.com/projectjoy365.
Yep. And if you use that hashtag, we'd love for you to tag us as well, so we can see it and see what you're joyful about in your life, whether it's something small or something big.
Absolutely. So, I
think that's it, right?
Caleb, I've enjoyed this. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was good.
Well, Caleb, that's going to do it for us today. I'm Danny.
And I'm Caleb.
And we are
Nobody special.